Welcome to the 128th season of the Canadian Club Toronto, Canada's Podium. For over a century, this platform has been a gathering place for visionaries, public figures, and decision makers to discuss the most pressing issues of our time.
We've been having important discussions and debates around this podium in this country for well over a century. I call this a historic podium of record.
Our club's always been a forum for visionaries, public figures, and decision makers to command attention to the issues of our time.
The Canadian Club is one of the most important podiums anywhere in the world that a Canadian can speak to, tell Canadians what it is that they think, develop those thoughts. And so I want to thank you for that very, very much.
Please join me in thanking our esteemed panelists today.
Through our programs and events, including our youth and young leaders programs, our diversity partnerships, our joint events, and our media and social media opportunities, we offer you access to dynamic political, social, and business figures from abroad and right here at home.
The platform from which the eloquence of Canada has flowed all of that time, whether it be business, education, politics, sports, arts and culture. If someone wants to say something to Canadians about this country and about the future of this country, this is the venue you choose.
Good afternoon, members and guests, and welcome to those joining us online. I am Shazanne Chu, the President-elect of Canadian Club Toronto and your host. The Canadian alcohol beverage market continues to expand with a breadth of thirst-quenching options to choose from, including seltzers, hard lemonade, and flavorful brews to please a range of taste buds. Today's special guest leads a century-old company that could soon take the title of our oldest company and count some of the most iconic brands in Canada as their own. Molson Canadian, Miller Lite, and Creemore Springs, to name a few. While its history is steeped in beer, its current portfolio is expanding beyond hops and yeast. Today, we will learn more about Molson Coors Canada's innovation and transformation journey and how it's influencing what we pour into our drinking glasses. Our ability to host these highly engaging events is possible because of the generosity of our partners and sponsors. Today's event is sponsored by McCarthy Tetra. Thank you for your contribution. Canadian Bankers Association is our season sponsor, and Air Canada is our official airline sponsor. We're grateful for your ongoing partnerships. For the third year in a row, Canada's Forest Trust is partnering with us to help capture our carbon by planting smart forests. Thank you. And we're pleased to welcome students from Humber College's Advertising and Marketing Communications program. Let me quickly highlight some housekeeping items before introducing our speaker and moderator. If you're looking for details on upcoming events, please visit our website, canadianclub.org, and consider becoming a member if you haven't already done so. We offer access to our events on demand and live stream for free. We also encourage you to share information about today's event on your favorite social media platform. Now for today's conversation. What would you like to ask the President of Molson Coors Canada? Question and answer cards can be found on your table, and we will be collecting them and sharing with our moderator throughout today's discussion. For those who are joining remotely, please hit the red Q&A button on the right side of your screen when we open the floor for questions. Finally, we encourage you to share your takeaways from today's conversation and to please visit canadianclub.org for upcoming events. And now it's my pleasure to introduce today's speaker. Chantalle Butler celebrates her first anniversary as president of Molson Coors Canada, a role she assumed on April 2nd, 2024. Previously Vice President of Sales Finance, she has been a driving force behind the company's transformation strategy during her 6-year tenure and currently chairs the Executive Committee. A seasoned leader in the beverage alcohol industry, Chantalle spent nearly a decade at Labatt Breweries of Canada before holding executive finance roles at George Weston Limited and Weston Bakeries Limited. Beyond Molson Coors, she serves as chair of the Beer Store, Canada's largest beer retailer, and sits on the boards of Brewers Distributors Limited and Beer Canada. Happy anniversary, Chantalle. We're so glad you're here today. Moderating the conversation is Andrea Hunt, President and CEO of the Association of Canadian Advertisers. Andrea brings a wealth of experience and a unique perspective on Canadian marketing, honed through global leadership roles across various industries. She's a 2-time Marketer of the Year winner and now serves as on the Executive Committee of the World Federation of Advertising. Chantalle and Andrea, welcome to Canada's podium.
These are quite the chairs. I won't make any knock on royalty, but it feels very regal. Welcome, Chantalle. Great to be here.
Thank you, Andrea, and honestly, a real honor and pleasure for me to be able to spend my literally first-year anniversary as president with everyone in this room. It's just incredible, so thank you all for the opportunity.
Thanks for coming. Now we're going to make this as painless as possible. We're also going to make it interactive. We talked about the questions, as interactive as it can be in a gilded chandelier ballroom, but we'll do our best. And Chantalle, now having the privilege of knowing you for many years, I know you would love to keep the conversation all about business and not about you, but if you're okay and indulge us, we'll cover both.
All right, sounds good.
Is that good?
Thank you,
Okay,
Andrea.
great. So I think we have about 30 minutes, and I have about 7,000 things that I could ask you about, so I'll get started. Chantalle, you are the president of Molson Coors Canada, one of the most iconic, and we also know oldest, if not the oldest, company in the country, and the first woman to hold this position in over 2 centuries. Exactly. Let's pause on that for a second. We could spend the entire day talking about that, but we won't. We're first going to talk about Molson. I won't promise
Sounds
that
good.
we won't come back to that. Okay. Given the branding familiarity of Molson Coors, it feels like a brand that we all know intimately, but probably not as well as you. In your time there, what have you learned that you wish we all knew about Molson? Or maybe something that's surprising?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to learn about Molson Coors, and I think we've already heard it. Second oldest company in Canada, founded in 1786. But I think what surprised me the most as I was learning more about the history and the heritage of the company, which really is rooted in how we operate today, is John Molson didn't just start with a brewery. He built hospitals, he built banks, he built railways, and he built steamboats. Because everything he did was really rooted in the values of making life better for others and the value of a thriving community, a healthy community, and a happy community is a growing community and is better for everyone. That whole adage about all boats rise with rising tides, I can never say that one properly. And so, honestly, that is really, I think, a really deep root in how we operate our business. I have the privilege of working for a company that has 7 generations of family members at the helm.
Wow.
So Jeff Molson is the chair of our board, and Andrew Molson is on our board. And I can honestly say I'm probably one of the very few people that works in a global public company that has airtime with 7th generation family members that really do still live and breathe the values that John Molson instilled in the company and in the community. And they're not in the day-to-day, which is probably not a bad thing, but I do connect with them quite a bit in terms of getting their counsel on how we think about investments in community, how we think about giving back to our communities, and really how we think about our culture. Their footprint or their fingerprint is really at the heart of our company values and our culture and the way that we treat people internally, externally, and think about our heritage as Canadians. So.
Wow.
Hopefully that surprises a few people, and yeah, I think it's pretty special.
It is 7 generations. I'm just trying to get my head around that. So that is both a strong
Great,
footprint
a lot of
and
greats.
a lot of great. We won't try to do that either.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So great. There we go. Turning next to strategy. I mean, that's an incredible legacy. There's so many things that so many different facets you could take the company and areas to focus on. What have you focused on in your first year? And maybe tell us a bit about why.
Yeah, I would say my focus on strategy actually started when I started with the company 6 years ago. I actually just had my 6-year anniversary on March 25th, so a lot of anniversaries in the past couple of weeks.
2 cakes.
But I started as CFO, and I started at a really pivotal, that's the right word, time for the company, where we were really trying to figure out what the long-term growth strategy was going to be for us as a company, both within Canada as well as globally. And so we spent a lot of time really at the leadership level talking about where things were going, where the category was going, where the beer category was going, and overall just consumer preferences. And really made a pretty bold decision to change our strategy and actually expand into total beverages. So the first thing we did was change our name. That was probably one of the easiest things we did, from being Molson Coors Brewing Company to Molson Coors Beverage Company. But really what it meant was we really had to fundamentally change the business. Beer is still a massive part of our business. It's still one of the largest, almost 50% of total alcohol beverage. So beer is still very much alive and very much a part of our legacy and the foundation of our company. But as we look to consumer taste, consumer preferences, needing to expand into other segments. And so we made the bold decision that we were going to move into seltzers and full-flavored beverages. So we launched Coors Seltzer, Vizzy Seltzer, as well as Simply Spiked and Arizona Hard Tea, which we do have some samples here today with us. And you can't just do that by launching new products. So what was really important about 5 years ago was that we really took the time to restructure the company. And by that, it's easy to say, okay, restructure the people. Yes, that's pretty obvious. Making sure we had the right focus of resources from a personnel perspective on the right segments. But also restructure our resources in terms of investment, our capital investment in our breweries, our marketing investments in our brands, our sales activation dollars, even just how we go to retail, the time we spend in retail, the time we spend in on-premise, on the different categories, to make sure that we didn't lose sight of what it is to be an iconic beer company, but that we also set ourselves up for growth in the segments of full flavor and seltzers. And by doing that, and I say back to 6 years ago, because we've been very consistent in that strategy, very clear with everybody about that strategy, and the consistency over the past 5 years has really allowed us to make sure that we focus on both pieces, and really has driven in our collective success. And I can happily and proudly say that we have had 25 months of consecutive share growth in Canada. And we were the only brewer last year to grow in both ready-to-drink beverages and beer. So the strategy's been working, so we're staying focused and we're staying focused forward.
Congratulations. That's not an easy thing, particularly given the established ways of working you've had from being in one business. And yet there's so much pressure with the need to be disruptive, and the market rewards change and speed. How have you nudged the company forward to new ways of working despite this well-established and well-oiled machine that you stepped into?
I think it's a combination of things. For me personally, my leadership style is to empower others and mentor others. So as we think about really people pushing forward, it's about bringing in the right expertise and giving them the flexibility to do the things that they need to do, obviously with the right guidelines in place and the right resources, as I mentioned, to set them up for success and learn quickly from, sometimes we do not have the same result as what we're expecting. And when that happens, it's okay. What did we learn from it, and how do we quickly pivot to make sure that we're making the right decisions for our brands and for our company? And really, honestly, I think it's clarity of focus and priorities that really helps keep us driving forward towards the same objectives.
Fabulous, fabulous. Now, it's hard to talk about Molson Coors and not think about the many iconic things that you've been involved in or stood for, over the decades from a cultural standpoint. So whether it's Hockey Night in Canada or the many iconic ads that you see there, how do you stay true to those things, but still, again, like you say, push it forward and meet people in the moment that they're in today?
Yeah, it's something we talk about a lot internally. We do recognize the iconicity of our company and our brands. And the moments that we have shared with many Canadians. I would say we think of it in a few different aspects. So first and foremost, rooted in the values from our founder, John Molson, really focusing on our communities. We have invested over $1 billion over the past 5-6 years in our Canadian breweries across the country. We've built 2 brand new ground-up breweries. We've invested in capabilities in our breweries to be able to do the ready-to-drink spirit drinks. We invest back in our communities in terms of donations and foundations and scholarships and those sort of things. Investing in partnerships with the Canadian farmers. Things that we do because they're the right things to do for our communities and the right things to do for our business, but not consumer-facing and not things that we necessarily get probably the airtime and the value for what we put in. And on the flip side, we obviously do things to get brand value that also contribute. But as we think about things and where our brands can show up and the things our brands can contribute to, it's really important that they show up in ways that are authentic and ways that, again, are aligned to the values of our company, but aligned to the values of our brands. And we're pretty thoughtful about that, and I would say I'm pretty proud of a few of the things we've done recently, and I'll just share maybe 2 examples of recent contributions that I think our brands have made to society in Canada, and our support of the PWHL is one of them. When we had heard that the league was trying to get started, it was zero question. We needed to be there, and we needed to be a strong supporter, and that we could help ensure that this could get kicked off the ground. And a lot of you probably know many of our team and partnership deals come with pouring rights. So there's certain value there in terms of being able to serve our products. But the PWHL doesn't have any venues. The PWHL often doesn't even play in the same venue consistently. So this had nothing to do with being able to serve our products in the venue. It really, really was rooted in being there in a moment where there was something starting that was really important for our culture, important for our communities, and making sure that the resources were there to get this off started. And really, I think, an amazing, fabulous inaugural year, and we're really proud to be one of the major sponsors that helped get it off the ground. So that was definitely something that meant a lot to us for our brands to show up. I would say the second one that was a little fun and cheeky for us, obviously Canadian Olympics happened last summer. And so, the easy thing for our brands would be to go and find the best athlete that's got the most likelihood to win a medal and, figure out a way to activate. But we took a different approach, and we really thought about, there's a lot that goes into these Olympics. There's a lot of preparation. And who are really the heroes that are behind everything that don't get the accolades and don't get the mentions? So we sponsored the parents. The parents are really the ones that, from day one of a child's life have given everything, blood, sweat, and tears to give their children an opportunity to succeed. And so we thought it was really appropriate for our brands to show up, our Molson trademark to show up and support those unsung heroes that are really bringing moments that mean a lot to Canadians.
As you talk about the advertising, also not to pile on to the goodness, but you talked about the, sponsorship is a very important part and an obvious role for a company to play. But I remember a campaign where you moved the Molson logo itself to the bottom of the jersey so that the hair didn't cover the athlete's name. So again, it's, I think, another demonstration of the thoughtfulness of your efforts.
Yeah, I mean, our partnerships mean a lot to us, and we like to make sure that we're using our brands and the investments in our partnerships to bring value to both parties, right? Mm-hmm. There's value in our brands, of course, but value to the brands of our partners as well. And so trying to find meaningful ways and authentic ways to celebrate what's important to the fans of those teams, what's important to the concert goers for the festivals that we sponsor, those sort of things, really understanding who are those consumers and making sure that we're finding ways to authentically show up. And you mentioned the one with the See Her Name, which for us had so many different layers of importance to it. But just making sure that the players get the right accolades and really putting them first and demonstrating what some of the things we don't even think about, like you can't see the player's name when they have long hair, and how many female athletes have long hair. So just really humanizing it and making sure that we're bringing attention to things that matter. I mean, other moments in culture we are pretty proud of. Toronto Maple Leafs announced a new captain, and we dropped the C from our beloved Molson Canadian in honor of the new captain. So just trying to find creative but also authentic and ownable ways to bring value to both of our partnerships.
Fabulous, thank you. Now here we sit in the Canadian Club. I'm going to move us to the subject of Canada because globally Canada is on the tip of many people's tongues for lots of reasons that we're not going to talk about today. What does Canadian mean in this context when you think Canadian?
That means a whole lot to us, but I think for us as a company, really, again, thinking about giving back to our communities and the things that we're doing to make life better for others, and really that whole notion of a thriving community is good for all of us. And so as we think about our role as being Canadians, making sure that we are, I'll say, standing loud and proud about our heritage. We are a global company, started in Canada, 239 years old, and still counting for many more centuries to go. And so making sure that people understand that, and I think in this time of people wanting to make decisions to support Canadians, I think it's our responsibility to make sure that as people are making those decisions, they actually understand what that means, what it means to be brewed in Canada. And we had a recent situation in Saskatchewan that really brought to light for me personally the importance of really sending that message of what it means to be a Canadian brewed product and what it means to be a Canadian company. And so for those in the room that aren't familiar, about a couple of weeks ago, the Saskatchewan government made a decision that they were going to ban the sale of Canadian brewed, how they defined American brands. So there was about 54 products that they were pulling off of the shelves and not making available for sale. And so we band together as an industry, Beer Canada, Restaurants Canada, many of our partners, and collective brewers really got together and made sure that the government of Saskatchewan understood what it means to be brewed in Canada. It means we employ, Molson Coors alone, over 2,500 employees in Canada. We have 9 breweries across the country. We buy our barley from Saskatchewan barley farmers, as well as many other grains supplied by other farmers across the country. We employ many people in different supply chain and other facets. And so making sure that they understood the decisions they were making, the impact that would have on not only the Saskatchewan economy and population, but could have a ripple effect across Canada and actually be counterproductive to what they were trying to accomplish. And a kudos and shout out to the Saskatchewan government. They actually worked pretty feverishly through the weekend to hear and think about the feedback that they were getting, and then did reverse their decision relatively quickly. So it was good. a good lesson, I think, for me and for us as an industry, how important it is. Consumers have good intents, and consumers are obviously entitled to their own decisions, but trying to make sure that they have the right information and the right education to make those decisions and not end up with unintended consequences that they may not have otherwise been trying to achieve.
Thank you. That's really good context. I've just been handed some questions from the group, and I think tariff is at least on 3 of them. So
surprise, surprise.
7-letter word that today of all days we probably should cover. So how? There's one specific question. How is the whole industry faring with the threat of tariffs? And of course, you've spoken to the pressure to buy Canadian. But
yeah.
Thoughts on tariffs?
I don't know if I should speak for the industry, so I'll speak for Molson Coors for sure. Honestly, the situation is changing by the hour, by the minute. So while we have corporate teams that are monitoring all of the changes and trying to make sure we understand the impacts, we are trying to keep the operations and the business focused on delivering on the things we need to deliver. Because we are brewed in Canada, 90% of our products are made in Canada. The other 10% is our Heineken portfolio that actually comes from Europe. And we do employ, like I said, thousands of employees across the country. So it's really important that we continue to stay focused on our plans, focused on the great products that our teams brew, deliver, and sell across the country. And as the tariff situation unfolds, we will deal with that. But the majority of our supplies, a large proportion of them anyway, are actually locally sourced. So from that perspective, I think it's great that we support Canadian farmers, and we have a lot of materials that should not be directly impacted from tariffs. But anyway, I think we're all watching and waiting to see how it all unfolds.
We are. Let's give ourselves a little break from tariffs for the second. We're going to shift gears. We're going to talk about consumer behavior.
All right.
Something that's very material to the world in which you operate. We're seeing consumption shift with younger generation and just the population in general to more health-conscious behavior. How do you consider that when you think about a beverage company looking into the future?
I mean, this is something that's been evolving a little bit over time, and as I mentioned, certainly something we were well attuned to when we did focus our strategy change about a little over 5 years ago to be a beverage company and not just a beer company. We see these as opportunities. We really do take a lot of time to research consumer behavior, and the good news is a lot of people still drink beer. But gone are the days of somebody that's just a beer drinker or just a wine drinker or just a spirits drinker. People have many different go-to products in their repertoire. And depending on the taste, depending on the occasion, might try different products at different times. Sometimes even in the same occasion, they might, start with a cocktail and have a glass of wine and then finish with a beer or whatever. So as we think about our portfolio and we think about consumer changes, it's really about making sure when we bring innovation, it's rooted in customer insights, consumer insights, and bringing something new, not just to our portfolio, but bringing something new to the consumers in general. Different flavor profiles that may not be available to give them a wider availability of taste. Or different products to serve different occasions, so that we have a robust portfolio of things that people can reach for, regardless of their taste or taste preference at the time or the occasion that they're consuming in.
That's great. Great perspective. Okay, so now we're going to transition to, I know what you're going to find the best part, your personal leadership. Knowing you do want to spotlight your team, there's a few things I know people would love to hear about. Gender being one of them. It's not, the defining aspect of your leadership, but you are a pioneer, particularly in this role. So the question, what has surprised you most about leading in this industry in particular? And what about your personal background have you brought to the role that maybe the other 200 years of predecessors didn't bring?
Okay, there's a lot to unpack in that question.
Sorry.
Honestly, the female aspect of it, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about, and that could be partly just because I've always been in very heavily male-dominated industries throughout my entire career. So I don't really know anything different. And I don't feel like I've been treated differently. I've always had the luxury of having very strong leaders, oftentimes male, who actually saw more in me than I saw in myself, and were always there to support me in my growth and development. So I consider that definitely a blessing. But I think what that has shaped me to bring to our team is really just a style of empowerment and mentorship, where all voices are heard. We really do value difference of opinion, different of experience, and really want to make sure that we have input from others. One of the things I learned very early on in my career is I'm not the expert at everything, nor should I be. And so really focusing on making sure that we have a team, a leadership team for the Canadian company that brings unique skills. And I'm blessed that we have found just that. We have a leadership team where everyone brings a different perspective, a different level of experience, a different level of expertise. And we're not afraid to share our perspectives with people. Everybody gets heard. We can challenge each other. We definitely do that every now and again. But we have a very clear vision, a very unified objective, and a very collaborative style amongst us where there's no egos, there's no one who thinks they're better than the other. And any one person's success is everyone's success. And the same, when there's things that need to be fixed or things that we need to address, it's all hands in. It's not, oh, that person did this or that person did that. We're really unified together and have a winning mindset with a very, very targeted, I think, vision in terms of what success looks like for us as a leadership team. And honestly, that is really, I think, the key to any success I have had or will have in this role.
Fabulous. So this is not specific to gender, but just in general, there's a lot of headwinds coming from a lot of places. What advice to leaders would you give?
I would say embrace change. Definitely turn challenges into opportunities. They're not always easy. But if you take the time to think about the challenges, usually there's a way to turn them into opportunities and ways that we can work around them. Don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone. Be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that is usually where you'll find the most growth, either personally, professionally, or within a company. And I would say find your circle of trust. I have probably 2 or 3 really great people in my life that have nothing to do with our industry. I don't tell them anything that's confidential, but just talking about the business and talking about certain situations sometimes just brings the clarity for myself. Being able to sort of explain something in layman's terms to people that aren't in the day-to-day can sometimes show a light bulb of ideas. But sometimes they're able to see things just so much more clearly because they're not in the thick of it. So I think, embrace being uncomfortable and find your circle of trust would be 2 things I would say from an advice perspective.
Oh, fabulous. Now, I know we're coming, I'm getting you need to roll up, but I am getting greedy, so we're going to do a lightning round of questions instead of just giving you a 1,000-word question. Okay, great. So first thing comes to mind off the top of your head. So one thing is, what is an underrated trend in the world that we should be heeding?
Oh, I don't know if this is a lightning round.
That's not lightning round. That's
say,
more like a storm. How about, what's an innovation you wish you'd done? Innovation, something that...
I was going to answer the other one, but...
You can come back to that too.
I would say the augmented, I'm probably not going to have the right terminology, but the 3D imaging on the menus.
Sure.
I think that is just something that's coming out now, and I think is just going to bring a whole new dimension to the consumer experience, the guest experience in restaurants, and I can't wait to see our products come to life in 3D images, and you get to see the magic of Madri and the chalice glassware. the way it's meant to be served. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
I haven't seen that yet. Look forward to it. What is a non-Molson product that you love? A new product you might have touched?
Oh,
I said non-Molson, but we'll get to Molson.
Our household has just literally over the weekend, and I think we've had it at every meal since, been introduced to dill pickle aioli.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of anything pretty much dill pickle, but yeah, apparently so is the rest of my family, and so it's going gangbusters in the house right
you're not
now.
going to be able to find it because it's going to go viral after this, and shelves are going to be cleared. Chantalle talked about it. Good to know. Okay, we'll pick that one up. What about a Molson product you love? I understand it's like picking your favorite child. You never do, but sometimes you do. So maybe you can do a couple.
Yeah, I would say actually Madri, which I just talked about, Madri Excepcional, which it was a new innovation we launched last year. We are one of the few brewers that are actually launching beer innovation. It's a Spanish-style lager that is just very, very delicious and just looks fabulous when it's served properly in the chalice with the little vortex that just never stops. So that would be definitely my more recent go-to, but we definitely have lots of other products that I enjoy.
Okay, fabulous. What about a surprising item in your briefcase, bag, knapsack, whatever? Surprising item.
Oh.
Not aioli, I hope. That would get messy.
I'm a pretty practical person and try to keep as few things in my bag. But I think
this is some learning.
The one thing that might surprise people, and no questions asked, I have a Mr. Clean Magic Eraser in my bag.
Oh, wow. That's telling right there.
Yeah.
That's great. They're nifty. They're good for
They
many
are
things.
pretty handy,
Now they're going to
yeah.
sell out too. This is too bad. Okay, back to something a little more serious. What is a leadership mindset that served you well? You talked about empowerment. Is there anything else?
I think just this notion of just you don't need to be, nor should you be the expert at everything, and really making sure that you have the right skills and expertise in those that are around you that can bring diversity of thought, diversity of ideas, really challenge your thinking and make sure that you can really push the boundaries and come up with the best ideas and make the best decisions for the company. So definitely embracing the fact of leaning on others and not needing to be the expert in everything.
I love that. Thank you. And let's Molson Coors have the last word. If Molson Coors disappeared today, what would the world lose?
Oh my God, so much. I mean, great beer and beverages, which would be a disaster, of course. But I think just this whole sense of community and really just contribution to society, both in every fabric of legal drinking age Canadians.
Absolutely.
Who I think everybody can say of a memory, whether it was because you were enjoying one of our beverages or watching one of our commercials on TV or watching a sport that we sponsor or enjoying a festival, and I could go on and on and on about the different ways that we invest to make life better for consumers. And so I think Canadians would be very sad and probably lead boring lives if Molson Coors wasn't around.
Well, thankfully, with you at the helm, and I don't have any risk of that happening anytime soon. So with that, I'll say thank you, Chantalle.
Thank you, Andrea.
Illuminating.
Chantalle, on behalf of Canadian Club Toronto, thank you for serving up an inspirational and insightful discussion. And thank you, Andrea, so much for moderating. Some key takeaways: investment in communities, help to bring everyone up, the importance of authenticity and thoughtfulness, and of course, perspective in uncertain times. Thank you. Really appreciate that. We admire Molson Coors Canada's desire to unite people and celebrate our national identity in special moments in our lives. We need reasons now to celebrate more than ever, and we appreciate your efforts to offer occasions and exciting beverage options to raise a glass with. Appreciate that. Andrea, Thank you so much for moderating a wonderful conversation with such great energy and enthusiasm. And congratulations to the two winners of our prize draw today. Copy of a new book, Earn It, Unconventional Strategies to Brave Marketers by Steve Pratt. And the winners are Michelle Marasigan and Luke Hartford. If you can grab your books on the way out, that would be great. Before we close, I want to invite our audiences again to visit our website, canadianclub.org, for more information about our upcoming events. On April 10th, we host a lunch in partnership with Terry Fox Foundation and their groundbreaking philanthropic venture capital efforts. On April 16th, we'll host Blake Hutchinson, CEO of OMERS. On April 23rd, we host an important conversation on charting Canada's Arctic future, featuring Nathan Obed, president of the ITK. And on the 24th, April 24th, we'll host Roy Gorey, president and CEO of Manulife. I would like to thank our AV supplier, VVC Live, for its continuously reliable support. And one more round of thanks to McCarthy Tetro for making today possible with their sponsorship. Members and guests, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you soon.